So we have the PlayStation Portable, PS Vita, and there are so many older devices that can be modified. There are so many cool things you can do with it. But if you don't want to get into the tinkering, this can be an interesting solution. So also when it comes to the Sumo shop, they are actually, let's say, giving you a very cool presentation with a nice box that they just made themselves. Sometimes you have the original box with it, but they're having the original system completely like refurbished too. And that's one of the things they're doing. In here we're finding even a special, let's say, screen protector or screen protector glass. And yep, like they said on the sticker over here, do not update the system. That is simply to do because if you're going to be updating it, the soft mod on this thing is completely vanished. And you just have an original device. I've picked up the blue one today because blue is my favorite color, but there are all kinds of different versions out there. And yeah, when it comes to the first impression, everything seems to be looking quite nice. And yeah, there's not a lot of things that we can actually complain about. I did notice sometimes they don't replace the joystick. I do wonder why this is. But so far out of the box, this is a very nice pristine condition. And that is one of the things, if you're going to be finding a PS Vita secondhand, most of them are completely like bust up. And that is one of the major problems I've noticed with PlayStation Portables and PS Vita devices. Because they're portable and people just using them as a device, so they're sticking them in all kinds of places, like in bags or just the side pockets, you name it. In here we're finding all of the necessary cabling, like a micro USB, having the 2-pin European connector. Be always like look out for that you're getting the right cable. And in here we're finding the power charger. So let's see, is this the original one? No, this looks like a cheap one. So do wonder if this is going to be good condition. Nevertheless, let's plug everything in and let's charge this thing first. But in the end, when you're looking at the PS Vita Slim model, you can just see how overall good condition it is. And finding this in, let's say, in different stores is going to be more challenging. But the details you need to pay a little bit more attention to when it comes to the finish itself. Because in the end, you do pay a lot of money for this. I will love the way how it looks and, oh yeah, filthy fingerprints on this thing. But in the end, the joysticks, that's one of the things I love to know from them. It's like, why are they not replacing them with something different to make it like the perfect, like refurbished situation? Besides that, the Slim model, I do love it. I do like it for what it actually is. Why I'm personally a big fan of the 1000 model. This thing is growing on me, I can tell you that. So being booted up into the system itself, here we're having the first menu. Okay, doesn't have any, let's say, cover. That's a little bit of a downside, but so far everything seems to be looking fine. So when it comes to, let's say, different kind of emulator options, we do have this, but I will show you in a minute how and what. So the game list, of course, is smaller than the previous review I did some time ago, and that has to do with the SD card being, let's say, smaller or like having less storage space. But there was actually so much cool stuff that we can actually play on this. And the list is absolutely massive when it comes to the library, but there will always be, of course, games that we're going to be missing out. However, if you're pressing the square over here, having the PlayStation Portable, and PlayStation Portable is, of course, an absolutely amazing system with many hidden gems. So we're only having 67 titles on here for now, so that is not a lot, and I know for sure a lot of cool games are missing out. Loading times are quite fast, but do notice that it hiccups a little bit with music. So let's check out. We're having over here some PlayStation 1. Many different games in here. 89 in total. Okay, pressing the square again, getting the N64 games, but N64 will be a hit or miss. So this is not overall perfect emulation. We have 134 games at this moment, with all kinds of different titles. But we're going to be focusing on games like Cruising USA. Pressing it again, having the Super NES. I just love the way how it looks. Over here, the NES. With many different titles. Pressing it again, having the GBA. And most of these systems, it's not something you should pick up on PS Vita for, because there are so many cheap $39, let's say $40, $50 devices from AliExpress that you can buy and do the same thing with. Okay, then with the Game Boy Color version, with over 500 games. And I understand they do this because these games are super small. They're kilobytes. Game Boy Classic. And over here we're having the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis. 16-bit era. But it was quite unfortunate that we don't have every single, let's say, system. No 32X, no Sega CD, but only like a handful of good games in my opinion. It is that we do have a lot of games missing out. We can play with cheaper devices. So this is the recently played list. And we're back to the PS Vita. So this is actually when it comes to, let's say, the menu and how it actually works and what you're getting. But another cool thing that we can do is pressing triangle. With triangle, over here you can just see if you're connecting this with the internet, we can download a cover if you have no cover whatsoever. So another thing we can do is kind of cool is having a different view. So it didn't change out a lot what you can see, but it is more the angle of the covers. We're having bigger covers, this different way they just displaying them. It's kind of cool. It's just the way how you personally want to see it. Out here everything like the favorites and all the other craziness. But you have just a basic list. And this way you can just so much easier like search for your games. So that's kind of cool. You have all kinds of different ways you can actually like get into the menu and mess around with it. Okay, so one of the funny things is when it comes to Sonic Mania Plus Edition for the PS Vita. So this is actually in port. And in other words, this thing has been never released, so what I understand of. The loading times are quite long, so you're not loading this up from like a UMD drive like the PlayStation Portable. So the overall experience for loading times were quite fast normally when having this particular game running. But where it's going to be having a limitation is just the power. So the overall experience is absolutely seamlessly when it comes to playing the games itself. But you will see between, let's say, the cutscenes, we do have some loading times because the PS Vita just struggles getting this thing to load up. Not to like in a very bad way, but it's kind of cool. Another thing I love about the PS Vita in general is just the overall audio quality. The front-facing speakers sound absolutely amazing. But let's get into some gaming. Let's skip the cutscene over here. Here we see like a black screen for quite a long time now compared with other devices. But getting into the game, let's go. So it runs perfectly. We do have like some black bars going on the top and the bottom. But just playing this is just so much fun. For me, Sonic Mania is absolutely Sonic 4. The game I was waiting for many, many years. However, if you want to exit the game, you can just actually press the home button over here. You can just shut it down and go back to the Retroflow Vita Hacks games like front end. So one of the things I was quite surprised with the PS Vita, the second model, how actually slim and how lightweight it is. I know there are some grips that I still wanted to check out from AliExpress. I think you can buy them for around like 10-15 euros or dollars. And when you're just looking at it, it's going to be making this thing less slim and make it more comfortable. So however, even if you're going to be loading up now from the SD card over here, I don't know if you can speed it up with different kind of overall, let's say, SD cards. But what's so convenient, you can just bring so many games with you. Woohoo! Woohoo! See me fly! So PlayStation 1 emulation is also great on this device. I would not really buy a PS Vita for PlayStation 1 emulation. And that's a simple reason, because there are just so many devices on China's, let's say, marketplace now. They can just play all of these games, and wow, it's a miracle that they finally added the music. Particularly when it comes to like the restoration music, man, it's such a cool music. I've been enjoying it for many years. The only downside I find with the PS Vita when you're going to be using the AB and XY buttons, that you're going to be putting your thumb against the right joystick. Due of the form factor, but emulation is perfect, even putting it on the right resolution. And still the D-pad, man, is absolutely great. So when it comes to emulation of PlayStation 1 Portable or PlayStation 1 on the PS Vita, you can even play this on the PlayStation Portable itself. There are so many ways to play PlayStation 1 now, but it runs absolutely great. So loading into the N64 emulation, we do have widescreen shenanigans and some weight glitching going on, but let's get into the games. So this is one of those games that normally always run fine on most of these devices. The main, let's say, intro is absolutely like stuttering and not like it's supposed to be, but getting into the game, we do have some okay emulation. So it's going to be a hit or miss with this. We do have all of the right controls. We have the joysticks and everything for configuring and also like playing the games. I did notice that the joystick of the PS Vita is very responsive, and I mean like really responsive because of the short travel compared with the original joystick of the N64. Not that it's going to be like a problem in the, let's say, future when playing all kinds of different games, but I really need to get myself into the practice mode, trying to figure out how to move around. Oh man. But you can just see that some of the games on emulation of the N64 runs fine. But most of the, say, the normal emulators like NES, Super NES, Mega Drive and so will run throughout RetroArch. So you can actually like load up RetroArch if you want to and play through there. That's one of those other ways you can go to, and maybe even have some more options. You can just switch more like faster throughout the games. So one of the annoying things is every single time I'm booting up a game, you see that we just have a black screen for quite a long time. So the communication between the front end, yeah, it's not that fast. And I found it quite annoying. And the overall experience is not good when it comes to that. But when getting into the game, everything works like a charm. And the same story of the Game Boy Advance applies to the PlayStation 1 and many other retro games. There are so many devices. They have just great overall emulation when it comes to these systems like Game Boy Advance. No weird audio. That's one of the things they completely mess up most of the time with these, let's say, cheap emulation devices from China. No audio delay whatsoever. So far I can see no screen tearing. I can just really enjoy this. Can we get a hold on the range? Can we get an extra life? Can we do it? Oh, almost got hit. But how is it when it comes to gaming on the PS Vita, the Slim model? I must say that I do like this thing. It feels less quality than the original PS Vita, but still, from the Sumo shop, you have absolutely overall great, let's say, value for your money. Where these things are not cheap at all, that is something you really need to take consideration. However, what you're getting is a refurbished device. They look absolutely great, and out of the box you do get a lot of extra stuff with it. So when it comes to, let's say, cases protection and everything else. However, I don't like the 256GB image. I really need more space because the PS Vita, but also the PS Portable and the PS 1 take up a lot of space. So we do have limitations over there. They should like upgrade this adapter. It feels a little bit cheap. I've been loading it for a couple of, let's say, hours now, but you can see that the charging time is quite long. Maybe that's to do with the cheap power supply, or to be honest, I couldn't really figure out at this point. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and let me know in the comments what do you think of this model, or do you prefer the 1000?